Hello there, it's Cassie, and welcome back for another Simon Hurley Create video here on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making a slimline card using this awesome set called Cake Walk by Simon Hurley Create. And you'll notice I already have a mask for it because that means there is a whole nother set of cards coming. We're also going to be using the Scene Builder Stencil, Scene Maker Stencil. I think this is a great stencil. It's very economical. It has all kinds of scenes that you can build with it. And we're going to be using a few of those elements on there on some dark cardstock. I wanted to show you some stenciling onto some dark cardstock. We're also going to be using the Stark White cardstock by Simon Hurley Create. We're going to use this for our Copic coloring, and we're also going to be using it as our card base. This stuff is great. And so let's get started cutting down our slimline. My slimline will be 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So I'm going to cut my card panel down to be 3.25 inches by 8.25 inches. Alright, so let's start with some white pigment ink. This is by Brutus Monroe, and in order to get some color on this dark cardstock, we're going to need to put down some white first. So I am just ink blending on some white pigment ink on where the mountains are, and you could use some tape or something like that to cover up the sun if you're concerned about getting bleed through, but I wasn't too worried about that. Now we'll move on to sponging our clouds. I am going to grab a piece of Heavy Doodle tape just to cover up the birds and the stars, just because I didn't trust myself when I was coming up. So I am blending up, and I'm actually using probably way too much color. This is pigment ink, so it comes across a little different. So I'm even going to subdue that a little bit more just by putting my mini ink blending tool over the top of that. But you can see I'm kind of struggling with my blending of this on there, and all I'm doing is moving the stencil back and forth just a little bit to get a different look in the clouds. You could even flip this and you'd get an even more look with the clouds. So I'm going to bring in one of my Vivos Beauty brushes to soften out that just a little bit. So my point with all this was, this is kind of like a dream card, if that makes any sense at all. Like, it'll make more sense when I bring in Artie and the elements, but it's supposed to be like a scene in a dream. Alright, so I've brought in some later Gator ink, and I sponged that right over the top of the white, and you can tell it works. It's really a very cool concept. And then I'll bring in some of the Crown Me ink, lining up my stencil over the top of the mountains, and I'll just bring that down, and it brings in the purple. I didn't need it to be real dark. I did want the grass to be a little bit darker though, so I'm going to line that right back up, and then I will sponge the later Gator right over the top of that again, just because I wanted to make sure that I had that nice and dark. But the purple, it didn't matter to me that was a little bit lighter. I just think it's cool. So you can add color to darker cardstock. You just need to add some white pigment first. Now I want the moon in there as well, just kind of ethereal in the background. So we have a moon, we've got the clouds, the mountains, and we also have the grass. I'm going to stamp down one of the cupcake that came in this set, and then I'm also going to do two masks. I'm using some Gina K Masking Magic. I didn't need both masks. For some reason I was thinking I would need two masks, but that's okay. Now I actually have two masks to set aside and save for later. When you are going to be doing your masking, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're stamping down first whatever you want to be in the very front. And I want Artie's paws to be in the front. So I'm going to stamp him down. I'll stamp him a couple of times. And as I said before, I already had a mask of him. So we're just going to take that mask and we're going to put that right over the top of Artie's paws. That's the biggest portion that I need. I'm not that concerned about the rest of it. And you'll see even when I stamp, I do stamp a little bit off, but that's okay. I can fix that just using a pigment marker. So no big deal there. And then I'll put the cupcake in his arms, and then I'll stamp the cupcake down, and then I will remove the mask of Artie, and you'll see that it does a pretty good job, and that way his paw is in front of the cupcake like he's holding it. But it also, I did screw up that one little portion, so I'm just going to draw that in just to fix it just a little bit there. And then I'll bring in the cupcake mask, one of them, and I'll set that down, and then we're going to move our cupcake down. We're going to keep stamping these cupcakes till they are stacked up. And so when I said I was making this like it was a dream, sounds like my dream, like stacked up cupcakes, and I am climbing on them to eat them. So that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get Artie to look like he was climbing up the cupcakes and he was going to eat this mound of delicious cupcakes. So we're going to go all the way down to the bottom of the page. I won't show you all of that, but that's basically, we're going to keep repeating this step over and over until we have cupcakes that go all the way down to the bottom. And then once we have that, there is a stamp in the set where you can add like the lines to your cupcakes. I'm just inking that up with my Raven Detail ink, which is a Copic friendly. It's also waterproof too. And then we're going to come in and color him with some of our Copic markers. I've got my C1. I wanted Artie to be like a little polar bear. I know typically he's brown, but we're doing him like a polar bear today. And so I'll bring in the C3 now just to put a little bit of shadowing and shading where the cupcake, around the cupcake, and just in other certain areas. And then I'll bring in the C1 one more time to blend that out, and we'll do that on his little muzzle as well. So we're just going to bring that color in and around. Like I said, this was supposed to look like he was, you know, this was his dream. It's a little different, not very traditional type of card, but I thought it would be really, really fun, and I just really wanted to do some blending on that dark cardstock. And then we'll come in and color all of the icing. We're going to do it all purple. Originally I thought maybe doing a rainbow, but then I thought, no, we're going to stick with a fairly deeper color theme. And that first color was BV02, and now we're bringing in BV13, I believe. And then we'll just add some shadowing and shading there. And then we're going to do some E53 all for the cupcake, like they're little vanilla cupcakes. And then we'll bring in C4 for the cupcake liner, and then we're going to bring in C6 for a little bit of darker shade. We'll do some flicking motions there. And we're going to do that for all of the cupcakes. And then I'll blend that out a little bit. And then come back in, like I said, and do all the rest of the cupcake liners the exact same way. And then that one cupcake off to the side, I am going to do the same thing with it as well. That's going to end up going inside of our card. And then when we're done, we're going to fussy cut the entire card out. I know that this color combo, this whole, it's a little bit non-traditional, but like I said, it's supposed to look like he's in a dream. And then for my slimline card itself, this is going to measure, I cut it to 7 inches by 8.5, and then I scored it at 3.5. So it is a side folding slimline card. I went ahead and glued down my cupcake on the inside and then stamped a sentiment, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment for the outside on one of the scraps, and then we'll bring in our Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer to trim that down just to get that ready to put on the outside. And then when that's all trimmed down, we're going to put some foam tape on the back of everything. It's like I'm aggressively trying to pull that off of there. And then once all that's off, we'll put that down on the front of our card panel. I think it looks like fun, honestly. I mean, yeah, that would be my dream, an entire mound of cupcakes like that. Oof, especially these days. Anyway, then we'll tape down our sentiment as well. You could use any color combo on this that you wanted. And then we're going to bring in some of that liquid glue, and we'll adhere that down to our card base. I'm going to bring in some Nuvo drops in the color Mustard Gold because I decided I wanted to try and put some sprinkles on there, and this was another way to add a little bit of color, a little pop of color. So I am basically just drawing sprinkles with my Nuvo drops all over those cupcakes. I am going to, once this is dry, do the inside as well. I want to make sure the inside cupcake has the same thing, and then I'll set that off to the side to dry so that way I can close it later on. But all the cupcakes will eventually have the sprinkles on them. And so that's it. That's going to do it for our card today. As I said, I'm going to have a whole set of cards using the Cakewalk stamp set because that one won out when I asked everybody what they wanted to see. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And then be sure to hit the notification button because that'll let you know when I have more videos coming out. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye, everybody.